In today's video, I'm taking you along as I shoot photos that feel dreamy to me. I'll be sharing my current favorite travel setup, along with some tips and alternatives for achieving this kind of look. I hope you enjoy it. Dreamy is one of those words that I don't really love, kind of like cinematic. It doesn't really mean anything specific, but it does convey a feeling. You know, when people say that something looks cinematic, they usually just mean that it feels like a movie. And dreamy to me is sort of the same. It's not really about anything technical, it's just more of a vibe. For me, dreamy photos have soft lighting, soft colors, and tend to feel like film, even when I'm shooting digital. At the same time, dreamy to me is not just about golden hour shots, it's also about the subject. Capturing places that feel a bit otherworldly, or places or moments that feel like a dream. The mix of feeling and setting is what makes an image feel dreamy to me. Film has had a huge influence on my photography style, and it's actually what got me into photography in the first place. What I love about film is that it has a timeless quality. Every digital setup I've built since then has been in some way an attempt to recreate the magic of shooting on film. And now I think I finally found a setup that ticks all the boxes. It gives me the look I'm after, and it's compact enough to take with me while traveling. Currently, me and my partner are traveling for the next 6 months, partly as an escape from the hellish English rental market. And we're currently staying with my family in the north of Italy, and we just took a quick trip to Croatia, which you'll catch a glimpse of in a moment. But before that, let me show you the setup I've been using. I'm using the Fujifilm X-H2 for this trip. I actually already made the first impressions video on that camera, so if you want to know more about the camera, you can check that out. I could only bring one camera with me because of space, so I decided to pick something hybrid that would allow me to do good photos and videos as well. Plus, since I'm adapting a vintage lens, a crop sensor has its advantages as it crops out the heavy vignetting and age haze that film lenses sometimes produce. The key to achieving a dreamy look, or any look really, is the lens. On the surface, it is one might not seem particularly special, but to me it is. It was the first lens I've owned, the Zuiko 50mm 1.8 from Olympus. Sentimental value aside, the 50mm is a sweet spot for achieving dreamy photos. It offers a natural perspective while giving just enough background compression to isolate your subject and create a soft cinematic feel. What I love about this particular lens is that it balances out the sharpness with the right amount of haze. I know this might sound strange, as especially here on YouTube, it feels like everyone is looking for the sharpest lens available, but in this case I'm actually looking for some softness. It gives the image this soft halation, especially in the highlights. And in this case, I'm actually avoiding adding a physical diffusion filter because it can so easily cross over the dirty lens look, and that's definitely not what I'm looking for. The camera and the lens you're using is kind of important, but the key to achieving a dreamy look is obviously editing. We could be using the exact same setup, but if we edit differently, obviously we're going to achieve different results. I have two different approaches when it comes to editing, and it kind of depends on what I'm shooting and the weather I'm in. One of the ways I create this dreamy look is based on the way I shoot 35mm film. This is because I like the way film renders, the more saturated colors, and the contrast between the highlights and the shadows. So I like to edit my images in a way that replicates the characteristics of film in these high contrast situations. The second way I create this look is when I'm shooting in softer light conditions. This could be when the light is more diffused or near the end of the day, when the sun is lower and the light is softer. Instead of trying to create a contrasted look in these lighting conditions, I lean into the softness to create these softer, low contrast characteristics in my photos. And just a reminder that my presets are linked below if you would like to recreate this look. The great thing about this setup is its flexibility. I've talked about before why I love Fujifilm, especially as a photographer with a film background, and how crop sensors can help you when you're adapting film lenses on digital bodies. But you can really make it work with any system you have available. Just make sure you're using the right adapter, as using the wrong one could ruin your camera. If you're interested in an SLR shooting experience, you can look into adapting vintage lenses, SLR vintage lenses on DSLR camera bodies. This is another great option because instead of using an electronic viewfinder, you have an optical viewfinder, much like a film SLR. Of course, this could mean a whole other camera setup, and I'm not trying to tell you to get a whole new setup, but considering the price of DSLR these days, it could be a fun weekend camera. I know I said at the beginning that I don't love fake terms, but maybe I do. The fun thing is that everyone gets to come up with their own definition of it. I love seeing other people's perspective and how the way they see things differently can open mine too. I would love to see your own version of dreamy setup and what dreamy actually means to you. And that's everything from me today. I'll see you in the next video.